Good morning, David.
Good morning, Salim.
David, let us talk a little bit about best ways of building culture. What is the best way to build a culture? Is that top-down or bottom-up?
Yes, it's very interesting. They sound like different strategies. You might think the best way to develop culture, we talked about tone from the top in one of the other videos.
Yes.
For leadership to adopt a position that says, this has to be done, we're going to do it, we expect you to do it, from the very senior level, we'll trickle it down through the organization. And that has some merits. That can be a good idea. I mentioned an example that I worked with for a few years, which was a construction consultancy in the UK, where the chief executive sent a video to everybody saying, this is really important for the success and the survival of our business. We're going to be doing this. I'll do it from the top, and I expect you to do it too. And what he did was spoke to his board and executive committee members, and he said, I want each of you to tell me at the next board meeting, what are your top 3 risks and what are you doing about it? Mm-hmm. And they said, yes, boss. And then they realized they didn't know what their top 3 risks were or what they were doing. So they went out of the board meeting to their senior reports, to their departmental heads, and they said, the boss wants to know the top 3 risks and what we're doing. So could you please tell me?
Okay.
And the departmental bosses said, yes, sir. But they didn't know either. So they then asked the portfolio managers, and eventually people were asked at the bottom. So top down, they realized that this was important because it was asked for from the top. It was being drawn up the organization. So top down, it works. But there's another way of thinking which says, isn't it better at the operational level of a business or an organization where people are actually doing the work? That's where we need to manage the risk. So why don't we get it started there, and then people will start to manage risk on their projects and in their operations and in their functions, and then it will see that it works, and then they'll talk to their managers, their line managers, and say, we need some support and some help here. Could you please help us manage risk? And then they'll say, oh, I can see that risk management is working for you. Maybe I should do it too. And then they talk to the departmental heads who talk to the function heads, and it comes to the top. So you have a kind of a ground level revolution, a people's revolution, where we say, it doesn't matter what the top management think, we're going to manage our risks here. And it spreads upwards. Which of those is best? Well, the answer is both. I would say it's not only top-down or only bottom-up. It's what I call ends in.
Yes.
So you start at the top and the bottom, and you meet somewhere in the middle.
So they can be done in parallel.
They need to be done in parallel. That's the best way. So you have senior management setting the strategy and the vision and demonstrating that it's important, and people at the workforce saying, okay, we can do this in our area, maybe a very small area. Perhaps I'm just an HR professional responsible for recruitment of admin staff, or maybe I'm a manager of a very small project or program. I'll just do my best in my area, and then you'll find that it ripples upwards and it comes downwards from the top. And together, that's a very powerful way to build a culture because it combines the vision with the practice. And the senior management set the tone, and the working level puts it into practice, and you see that it delivers value, and then everybody is persuaded and works together. The middle management often is the barrier, where they get directives coming from senior management, they get demands coming up from below, and they can't quite see how it helps them to be middle managers. And often in that sort of culture development, there is a level of resistance in the middle because people don't quite see how it helps them do their job. And that often requires some special attention.
Interesting. This looks to me as a physicist, as a scientist, that is just like a ball, you give it energy and momentum. It's a collision cascade.
Yes.
Then this ball will go, just like snooker, will go and hit other balls and transfer this momentum and energy.
Yes.
And that will continue in the organization. This is similar like a CEO or a leader who is giving, trying to engage the individuals at the layers below in risk management.
That's certainly how the top-down side works, where you start your game of snooker and you hit the middle of the red triangle and everything else moves. So clearly that's the single point of impact from your senior management. The bottom-up, I think, is a different picture,
of course,
where we're saying, and I like the idea of a revolution,
Yes.
where individuals or small groups say, well, it doesn't matter about everybody else, I'm going to do this. And it spreads from the bottom organically. And I think that's not the energy transfer
Yes,
of a cascade.
yeah.
That's a different picture.
Yes.
But together, very powerful.
Yes, but in reality, can we talk about, for example, seeding or having champions who will start initiating these then to accelerate the speed of spreading this culture?
Yes, in both directions, top down and bottom up. I think the idea of a change champion is quite common now, to have somebody who will help to initiate and promote and sustain change. The word we've been using in the risk context is facilitation.
Facilitation.
So the facilitator makes things easy, and you can have people who will make things easy from the top in terms of designing communication strategies, in terms of setting goals and objectives for each of the levels. And that might be an executive assistant or one of the board members who is given that responsibility to facilitate downwards. And then you can have champions, risk champions across the operational level, who make it work down here and pass it upwards in the organization. So identifying change champions or risk facilitators is a very helpful step in terms of seeding the culture change and sustaining it.
Thank you very much, David.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.